What do you think the workflow is or should be when you're working with loop makers? Do you still negotiate just as hard for those loop makers?
Every situation is different. There's a lot of variables that come into play, but for me, there's always three main things. Have you worked with this person before? How much money is being offered? And is it fair? There's a lot of variables there, but you can deduce that information very quickly. If there's 20,000 being offered, you've worked with this big beat maker before multiple times, and they've tried to lowball you on the advance multiple times. Like in those cases, we are going to stand on an MFN or most favored nations and get an equal split for our client because they're being taken advantage of.
What are some of the things that a producer should think about before actually signing with that manager?
Yeah, the first thing in general in life is just have your goals written down. Like have like an aim of like what is it that you're trying to accomplish, and then ask the management company or the production company, whoever you're signing with, like what their goals are. Like very simple and fundamental, very elementary, but like what are the goals that you have and do they align with the management company's goals? And a lot of times you'll find that they don't, but no one's asking those hard questions. So like from a consultative perspective, that's where working with our team really allows you to know that like we're going to ask the hard questions. So like even if our clients don't know what to ask, like we're going to make sure that they're writing goals down and that they're staying organized and that kind of stuff.
Calling back, got some keys.
And we're back with another episode of the Producer Royalty Podcast. And this week we are here with Dan Montana. How you doing, bro?
What's up, brother? Let's get it.
This is going to be one of the most informative episodes for producers because you are the blueprint and like the cheat code for a lot of top producer management companies. And like, I know this, I've been really excited for this one. So I want to ask you real quick, what kind of role do you take working with producer management companies?
Yeah, so this has been a long time coming, first and foremost, but I would say my main role is on the operational side. So I help with everything from organizational stuff to just making sure that people are getting paid, really. So finance, back end, less on the creative, but mostly organizational and execution.
Yeah. What do you find that a lot of producer and full transparency, like we've been working together and you are actually the blueprint for why Producer Royalty has been able to scale this quickly. If it wasn't for you, I'm not sure what we would do because we have so many clients that it's so hard to stay on top of everything. So like you are a mastermind when it comes to that space. So it's like, what would you say? And the way we met, do you want to explain the way we met real quick?
Yeah, for sure. So I was handling a very similar role for A1 Music Group, and my boy DJ Ice over there kind of gave me an opportunity to take over an operational role. So he reached out and gave us the idea of like partnering with you to kind of help on the administrative side, and we grew so quick that it was time to kind of separate the management company from the debt collection service.
Word, yeah. So what do you find working with other management companies? What do you find that a lot of them are missing, and what are you able to kind of provide them that they're not really? What I'm trying to get at is what is a red flag with a management company, I guess.
Well, the main thing when you open up the hood for most management companies is just the lack of infrastructure, the lack of organizational skills. They don't have a CRM. There's no like method to the madness, right? So like we're not like keeping track of invoices. We're not sending follow-ups often enough. So really just from an operational perspective, like nobody's really like locked in.
What are some more examples of things that they're missing, and how does that affect the client?
So management companies mainly are just missing people within the company that are working 7 days a week, that are actually like on top of stuff, but that also know what they're doing. Because like I've been blessed to partner with a lot of different management companies, some of which do have infrastructure, they do have teams, but they don't necessarily have the experience. So that's one of the things that we're able to bring to the table when we come into a management company and say, hey, like we have people, we have an admin team, and we know what we're doing. We've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, and you've been able to, at this point, you kind of have been able to, because of the way you've been able to scale yourself, multiply yourself, to step into another management company, even though you do way more for other management companies, like than they would be able to do on their own. Just like you're able to do this and multiply with a bunch of other management companies at the same time. So it's like, what are some of the things that you wind up doing? Like, what differentiates you? Like, why are you able to do this that other managers aren't able to be able to work this many hours and be able to have the same amount of impact as other managers?
Yeah, so all glory to God, first and foremost, because I'm very blessed. I have like skill sets that the Lord has blessed me with to be able to have these efficiency models in place and stay organized. And then from there, it's just rinse and repeat. So like, I know that that's my 10. Love coming to the studio. Like Big Lex likes me coming here. Like whenever I want, like this is my home. I got the key and all, right? But like from a creative perspective, that's not my 10. So like me being in the studio, I can't get nearly as much done for like my clients and my team as I can sitting at a Starbucks or at my office.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the red flags? We kind of touched on it for like a management company. If a manager reaches out to you, let's say they have a huge personal brand, there's somebody that you might expect to be able to make plays for you and all this stuff. Like, what are some of the things that you should think about, a producer should think about before actually signing with that manager, or at least try to take note of?
Yeah, the first thing in general in life is just have your goals written down. Like have like an aim of like what is it that you're trying to accomplish, and then ask the management company or the production company, whoever you're signing with, like what their goals are. Like very simple and fundamental, very elementary, but like what are the goals that you have and do they align with the management company's goals? And a lot of times you'll find that they don't, but no one's asking those hard questions. So like from a consultative perspective, that's where working with our team really allows you to know that like we're going to ask the hard questions. So like even if our clients don't know what to ask, like we're going to make sure that they're writing goals down and that they're staying organized and that kind of stuff.
So what does that conversation usually look like? Like, what are some goals that like a producer might say versus a management company? Like, what are those? Because like with producer royalty, we're not signing people, so it's not the same type of conversations that you have with A1, right? So producer royalty is more of a law firm like type business model than like A1 is. So sometimes I don't get that perspective from you. So like, what do those conversations really look like?
So from the perspective of the producer,
Yeah, I guess like if you have a conversation with your manager about goals, I'm just trying to picture how that looks.
Gotcha,
And
yeah.
what is the manager's goal, I guess, with working with a
yeah,
producer?
so a lot of management companies don't even have their goals clearly defined, right? But like a management company is pretty straightforward, right? It's like, are you looking to sign clients and get into the publishing space? Are you looking to sign clients and sell your management company at some point? Are you even putting this on paper? A lot of management companies have all these clients, but nobody's actually signed on paper. So there's really no equity in the company. So if the management company's goal is to build a client base and then sell, but nobody's signed on paper, there's no one's going to buy that, right? So like there's nothing there tangibly, right? And then like from a client's perspective or a producer's perspective, it's more like what are you trying to do over the next 5 or 10 years? So like let's say the average producer we talk to in the various company might be like 20 to 25 years old, right? So like what are your life goals? Are you trying to start a family? Because if you're trying to start a family, then like moving to LA for the next 5 years because the manager that you just signed to gave you all these opportunities might not really make sense. But if you're 18 and you got a couple years to kill before starting a family, like these are the type of things you need to be thinking about, because if it doesn't align with your like personal vision and like what you feel God put on your heart, you're not going to be all in.
What is onboard? One thing about you that you're phenomenal at, and you allowed producer royalty to like really step into a new type of relationship with the client, is onboarding. So like, what should onboarding look like with your manager? Because a lot of managers, they reach out to a client, they have a good brand. It's like, yo, I want to work with you. I want to sign you. They a lot of times don't even hop on a call with them. So what should onboarding look like?
Yeah, so if you're looking to sign to a management company, a production company, even a publisher, like you want to get some face time with them. Like one of my pet peeves is if I'm about to go into business with somebody is not getting FaceTime with them. So like I want to see their eyes. If we can't meet in person, like I want to be able to like feel their heart when they're speaking to me and really know like do they have my best interest at heart. And when you see somebody visually on a FaceTime call or a Google Meeting or a Zoom call rather than just talking on the phone, like you can really understand like where their heart is and if they are looking out for what your goals are. So rather than just like maybe getting on a quick phone call with them and chopping it up for 10 or 20 minutes or maybe even a couple hours, but like you can't feel that same thing, because obviously nowadays we're talking to people all over the world, right? So a lot of our clients are international, so you're not necessarily going to meet these people in person before you sign, but like take the time to like just look in somebody's eyes on a Google Meeting. Like that goes such a long way, and it'll teach you life skills to be able to know like next time, like if this goes south, what were the red flags early on? Like did this person not show their face on a FaceTime, and did they push me to sign quickly, and like let me not make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah. What do you think a producer should do if a manager feels a little bit pressed if it feels like the manager is pressing them to sign quickly?
Every single deal that I've ever seen where anybody was pushing anybody quickly into doing anything, whether it was just an advance for a song clearance, whether it was a co-publishing deal, whether it was a sample clearance, every single situation, it was not in the client's best interest to move forward quickly. And that's why they were being pressured. And I've been in sales for over a decade, and anytime that I ever pushed somebody to do something quickly, it was because I needed something done quickly to either hit a bonus, to pay my rent. Like, so if you're being pushed into something, it's probably because the other person needs something done quickly, but it doesn't mean it's in your best interest.
So what should they do then?
Pray. take a deep breath, meditate, ask a mentor, speak to somebody that you know, maybe even not in the industry that you're in, and just ask for guidance, right? Like take it with a grain of salt if they don't understand the industry, but like ask somebody that's older than you, that's been around a little bit longer than you, for advice. And I think too many younger producers, they're afraid to have those hard conversations because they really don't know enough and they don't want to feel ignorant to whether it's their parents or their friends or their mentors or their brother or whatever it might be. But yeah, just go out and try to make it happen.
What are some of the things that that producers do or should be doing to maximize their relationship with their manager? Because you work with so many producers. A lot of producers stand out. A lot of producers don't get the much attention, like because just by the nature of how they move or whatever the relationship is like. So if you want to maximize your relationship with your manager, what should you be doing?
Be assertive. Be really assertive. Bother them. It's all about like who's on top of mind. Like if we're in a situation where we have somebody that we know is going to be in the studio with one of our clients, or there's any opportunity on the table at all, a sync placement, whatever it might be, the people that are the closest to the top in my text thread are the ones that are going to get the opportunity, just because I'm busy and I don't have the time. So like if Landshark reached out to me yesterday and Jojo the producer reached out to me today, like Jojo the producer might get the opportunity because he's right there on the top of my text thread and I just got a lot of stuff going on. So boom, I'm going to just send it through. So like be top of mind. Bother them. If someone's your manager or your publisher, they're getting compensated off of your work, so they work for you, so you can blow their phone up. That's how it should go.
So you don't think producers should feel bad about blowing up their manager, their publisher like that?
No,
they should do
100%.
that.
Yep.
Yeah. So when it comes to working with, all right, so like one thing that you're amazing at too is being able to be like a middle ground between working with, all right, so you're a manager, working with the lawyer, working with the publisher, working with any other entities, like working together. You're able to really do a great job liaisoning that situation and making sure that everybody has what they need to do their job. So like when it comes to working with a publisher, if you want to maximize your relationship with your publisher, what should you be doing as a producer?
Communicating. So just like every other relationship that you have, right? You want to communicate well. You want to know what's on their mind, what's on your mind. Like, what songs do I have that are registered? It's very elementary, but I would say 90% of the clients we meet with, and I've met with probably 500 producers in the past 3 years, 90% of them, if I say, what songs do you have that are not registered, they can't even tell you. And it's not their fault, it's their publisher's fault. But a lot of the onus falls on you because you never asked your publisher, hey, what songs do I have that are registered and which ones aren't? So it goes both ways. The phone works both ways. So like you got to pick up the phone and call them and make sure that they're taking the time to do their part.
How do you check? How do you know if a song's registered?
So the first thing that we always do is we tell the publisher to send us an Excel sheet of what's registered for the client, and then we compare that to their Schedule A or their placement tracker, or even something simple as BMI. So like let's say that we are working with a client who's been unpublished, and on their BMI they might have like 20 or 30 works, and then they got a pub deal or an admin deal, whatever it might be, and now there's like 10 or 15 songs that are showing up on the Excel sheet that their publisher has registered. Well, we'll just kind of cross-reference what BMI has on the registrations and what the Schedule A is and try to make sure that everything lines up.
What do publishers need to register your publishing?
Full splits. So this is back to making sure that your goals align with the publisher, with the manager. A good manager will make sure that you have full splits being sent to your publisher because they have a vested interest, because the manager should be eating off of your publishing. They should be getting some type of revenue off of the money that you're receiving from your publisher. So they should have a vested interest in when you get let's say a record with Fat Joe and the splits come in, you want to get a fully executed agreement ASAP, get that up to the publishers so the song get registered so that everybody can make money. But if your goals aren't aligned with them and like you're a small fish in their big pond, like you're probably going to have to get the fully executed agreement on your own, and then get that information up to your publisher on your own. And then if your manager is still taking a cut of that after all that, then like you have to have a hard conversation.
Yeah, and working with lawyers too. Like, what do you think the dynamic, the working relationship between a manager and a lawyer? What's the most productive type of relationship they could have? Like that workflow of working together.
I think again communication. So like Matt Buser, for example, he's been like a really big help for me and what I've learned so far. And the thing that I love most about him and his team is like they're willing to get on a call with us and really like break down like where we're at as a team and like where we're putting our time and making sure that like it's in everybody's best interest. Because sometimes even for our clients, like taking the time to get agreements redlined where someone's getting a $250 advance for a lease beat or something like that. Like, it just might be better in some cases for them to throw that thing up on BeatStars and just have somebody buy the lease on there rather than like taking up everybody's time and no one's making money off of those deals.
How do you feel about producer? What situation should does it make sense to get the producers connected with the lawyer and make sure that their lawyer is stepping in that situation?
Well, I believe that a good manager will always be the concierge between a client and the lawyer. So like, I don't want my clients talking to our lawyer. Like, our lawyers are busy, they have a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of our clients don't understand the lingo. So like, for me, all of our clients are going to talk to me and me only, and then I'm going to talk to the lawyer. And that's really what a manager is for. I don't want my clients to have to think too hard. I want them to like be in their zone and let me stay in mine and like let me cook, right? Like, my 10 is to communicate and communicate at a high level. So if I know there's a situation where there's a clearance, I'll go to my client and say, hey, here's what JoJo's team is offering you, and then I'll ask him for his feedback, and then I'll take that to the lawyer and say, hey, let's work this out based on that. But I don't really want to plug my clients in with the lawyer directly.
Yeah, because there's a lot of wasted time in those situations, right? Like, a client or the lawyer has to do a lot of extra explaining, a lot to like even communicate the same thing too, which is like that's something that more so you should be doing. I guess it makes more sense for the manager could be doing. Right? Yeah, it makes sense. So with to take it back to publishers too, like, what have you seen? You've done a lot of work in the publishing space as well too, and we joke about a lot, like how incompetent a lot of publishers are in the same time. So like, what have you seen with a lot of publishers? Like, how do you even know if a publisher is doing their job and if they're reputable enough to sign with, like if they're actually going to do their job?
So there's a lot of lack of transparency in the music industry as a whole, but specifically in the publishing space because just of the lack of information that's readily available. Like, most of the people that you speak to that even have really big catalogs, producers, for example, they don't really understand where their publisher's collecting money and how they're collecting the money. So just having a hard conversation with the publisher and understanding exactly where the money's coming from will allow you to learn, so that if you ever go into another situation with another publisher, like, the questions to ask. So like, one of our publishing partners, they send us a spreadsheet that actually tells us exactly what society the song is registered with, where it's been approved, where it's not collecting, so on and so forth. So like, us and our clients could learn from that, and we could take that information and go into the next conversation and like learn from it. But I would say, to digress back to your question there, like, publishers overall are like every other business. They're looking for the big fish. So like, if you don't have a hit record, they're not really going to take the time to talk to you. We have some really big clients that are making good money in the publishing space, but like, it's really hard for them to register songs because the publishers really aren't making that money. It's like a lot of money for the client. They make 50, 60, 70 grand a year, but like, the publisher split on that's like 15 grand. Like, they want a hit record that's got 1 billion streams where, there's millions of dollars being generated and they're making hundreds of thousands a year. And just be realistic with yourself. If that's not you, then you really got to press the publisher or anybody you're in business with to really do their part, because you'd hope one day that you have a song at 1 billion streams.
What are some things that goes into registering publishing that like I used to think when I first got into the space that like registering your music with publishers have automated systems. I used to say that. I think part of the old videos I used to make, I would say publishers have automated. That's not true at all, is what I've learned very quickly. So like, what are some and you've worked a lot on helping producers get set up with publishing. What are some of the steps that go into registering publishing that like a lot of producers don't understand? Like,
yeah, the most important thing, like what we talked about, is getting a fully executed agreement with the full writer splits, and then sending that information to the publisher, and then following up to make sure that it's actually being registered. Because again, if they're not making enough money, they're not going to follow up with the societies unless you follow up with them to make sure that it's being done. Because it's not an automated process. There's a lot of legwork that has to be done inside, like internally with the admin team. So like, what I love doing is like pressing the A&R at the publishing company to get on a call with me. Like, I'm probably not like, when people see my email come through on any side, they're not like the happiest person, because like, they know that I'm going to press them to get on a call and like just to do their job, right? And a lot of people in the industry are like overworked and underpaid. So at the end of the day, like, I understand that and I respect that and I have empathy for that, but we need to get the job done, and there's no other way for me to do it, because my client signed to you, you're publishing the client, you need to be the one that's reaching out to societies, making sure everything's registered, and then reporting back to us to let us know what's needed from our end.
What about on the master royalty side? So we started a master royalty company. Like, what is the value of having a master royalty admin, and why is that needed today more than ever before.
Yeah, so like think 10, 15 years ago, before there was all these independent distributors like Empire and so on and so forth, there was really the three major labels that were distributing 90% of the records. So let's say a producer has 100 songs in his catalog. 90 of those songs are going to be being collected by Warner, Universal, and Sony. But now, in the same example, 100 songs in a catalog, there might be 20 or 30 different distributors. You got Empire, you have Gamma, you have Vidya, you have this, you have that, you have Warner, Sony, Universal, you have records being placed in Italy. That's a whole different portal. Like in some cases, we'll have a client with 100 songs where they have to have 20, 30 different portals open. And if we're being honest, it's very similar to publishing. And if anybody says different, then it's probably because they're not educated on actually collecting master royalties, because the process is not very straightforward. The labels don't make it easy. Their systems are archaic. In a lot of cases, they don't even actually have the infrastructure in place to account properly to the producer according to the producer agreement between the artist and the label. So I think having an admin in any capacity, but specifically for master royalties, is very important. You're breaking them off a piece so that you could buy back your time and focus on what you love. Because most producers I meet with do not love email threads. They love being in the studio. They love being on their laptop. They love creating. So have an admin pay 15, 20, 30% even to buy back your time and be able to focus on what you love, because collecting master royalties is definitely going to become more of an issue as time goes on, because producer agreements are becoming more convoluted and there's so many more there's a lot more distribution companies, independent publishers or independent labels popping up every day.
Yeah. What do you think makes it so difficult to collect master royalties? Why is it such an issue? Like, why is it so difficult to collect them?
I think it starts with the producer's lack of understanding about how the royalty systems work. What will end up happening is a producer will go and try to register a song with, say, Warner, that ends up being unrecouped. And then because it's unrecouped, they forget about it. They don't have a system in place to track it. And then 3 years from now, the song's recouped. Warner's not going to reach out to them and be like, hey, like this song's recouped. Like if you didn't finish the process to set up the vendor account, if you don't have an admin following up on that, that money's just going to sit there. And until somebody goes and collects it, they're not reaching out to you saying, hey, come get this money.
Yeah. What are some things that you think producers should do if they really want to stay on top of master royalties? Like, what should they be thinking about? What should they be doing to make sure that they're getting what they're supposed to?
The first thing I always recommend is a placement tracker. So just like every song that you have is an asset. Just like if you owned real estate, you would have an Excel spreadsheet with every single house that you owned, right? What the rent was that was coming in every month, how much you owed, what the taxes were. In that same way, like even if you have a small song right now, that person might be the next Shabuzi, for example, right? Like, so you want to keep track of every single record, because otherwise you'll get lost in the sauce. And then 5, 10, 15 years from now, something might be doing really well, and you don't even remember that you had, a cut with that artist back in the day, and you're kind of just all over the place.
If you were a producer, what would you do to make sure you're staying on top of it? Like, would you keep a list of all it, and then you check in every 3 months? Like, what would you do?
If I was a producer, I would outsource that to somebody else, just because I wouldn't want to spend my time doing that kind of stuff. Like, I'm crazy. I enjoy Excel sheets and email threads. Like, that's what I enjoy. So I would find somebody like me who enjoys that, because it's going to be done right. But most producers don't enjoy Google Sheets. They don't enjoy email threads. So I wouldn't even attempt it if I was them. I would say find somebody like me who does enjoy that, because they're gonna keep it like that if it's their baby, right? Because like it's their 10. So I would find a team, a manager that's going to actually like care about it the way that you should.
Yeah. And so I learned a lot when I first started working with you and Will from Way One Music Group. And like you guys, the first call I ever had with him, he was going off of some things that he asked for and that he's gotten for his clients that like traditionally I never really even heard of before. So like, what are some of the things that you guys ask for that a lot of managers or lawyers don't?
I would say the first one is if someone's beat was stolen or their loop was stolen, and we're going like looking at like a backdated royalty. Let's say the song came out 3 years ago. We're no longer just getting an advance, master points in publishing. We're now asking for a sample clearance fee that's non-recoupable against the royalty. And then whatever master royalty or master point we do get approved, we're asking for a backdated royalty. So in an example where a client has a 3-year-old song at 100 million streams, if we ask for a $5,000 advance and a 1-point royalty, but the advance is recoupable, that cuts into the backdated royalty. But if we get a sample clearance fee that's non-recoupable and a backdated point, now we're talking about 3 times the money in some cases. So that non-recoupable sample clearance fee has been the lick for sure.
What do you think the workflow is or should be when you're working with loop makers? Like how, like if you represent a loop maker and they didn't do anything but send the loop to somebody that made the play for it, like do you still negotiate just as hard for those loop makers? Do you think that they should, like, to be mindful of the quote unquote relationship? Like, do you think that they should ask for more, or like how do you think a loop maker should approach
every
it?
situation is different. There's a lot of variables that come into play, but for me, there's always 3 main things. Have you worked with this person before? How much money is being offered, and is it fair? And there's a lot of variables there, but you can deduce that information very quickly. If there's 20,000 being offered, you've worked with this big beat maker before multiple times, and they've tried to lowball you on the advance multiple times. Like in those cases, we are going to stand on an MFN or most favored nations and get an equal split for our client because they're being taken advantage of, right? Everyone talks about equality, everything needs to be equal, but then when it comes to a beat maker and a loop maker, all of a sudden now like, oh no, we're not doing equal splits. I can't get behind that. So a lot of my clients, we're standing on that almost out of spite sometimes, just because we've seen you do it so often and you're flagrant about it and you post on social media about it. So we're going to do our best to make sure that our client gets what we think they deserve.
And one thing about you guys and what has become Producer Royalty too is you've taken a lot of freaking songs down, bro. So what are some things that people should do if you want to maximize the chances that you get a song taken down and Spotify approves it? What are some things that producers should do?
Have a system and a process in place for what it is that you're saying to Spotify. So just like, first off, don't just try to take songs down. Like that's never the goal. Like we're not out here just trying to take records down. It doesn't help anybody. But at the end of the day, if our client's not being treated fairly and the money's not flowing, then something needs to happen. So in that case, if I was a producer, I would do a couple of Spotify infringements. And the reason we do Spotify, just to explain that, is because it pays more to the label or the distributor than some of the other DSPs, and their process to doing a DSP takedown is a little bit more straightforward and it's a quicker turnaround time. So do a couple of them and see what Spotify asks you back. So like when you submit the form, see what Spotify says back to you, and then take that information for the next one and use it against Spotify and against the artist, because you already know what Spotify is going to say. So when you're submitting your claim on the front end, you'll now be able to use that information, and the process will speed up. Like right now, we can get something down within like a day or two, whereas when we first started doing that, it might have took 3 weeks. We might have had to submit multiple claims, and then just be patient, because obviously Spotify is a big company. They get probably hundreds, if not thousands, of takedowns a day. So you just have to be patient and know that it's not always going to work out. I did 7 takedowns yesterday. 6 of them went right through. 1 of them got kicked back. I don't know if it's AI. I don't know how what their process is, but it ended up being the smallest song for whatever reason got kicked back, and we just have to deal with it and submit the information that they're asking for.
What percentage of the time in a situation where the beat got stolen, it was straight up an infringement, does the song like your takedowns actually go through?
If we submit a takedown, I would say probably about 70% of the time they will approve it. There's certain cases where it's a really big song, or I don't know exactly why, but there's certain artists and certain labels that the Spotify infringements don't work as well for. And Spotify will basically tell us, hey, here's their email, reach out to them. And then our hands are kind of tied at that point. And that's when you start talking about litigation. If it's a big enough song, you can kind of press the issue and go further with legal action from there.
How much leverage do you think that you have when you do take the song down?
You have all the leverage, right? So the thing about the music industry that's very weird to me is like, let's say we're in an art studio right now, right? And you were a painter and you had a bunch of paintings up on the wall. Like if I took a painting off the wall and be like, hey, I'll catch you later, and like I'll come back, like that's not kosher, right? But for whatever reason in the music industry, I can come take a bunch of paintings off the wall and say, hey, I'll see how this goes, and like maybe I'll pay you later. And like that to me just doesn't really make any sense. There's no other business model that works like that. So at 100% of the time, if our client's beat or loop is stolen, like we're going to take the song down and have the leverage to get them paid, just like you would if someone took a $20,000 painting off your wall. You'd probably call the cops.
Yeah, bro. I'm gonna cut it there because that was so much. That's so much to digest. But this was so fucking informative, bro.
Cool.
Thank you so much for doing this,
Of course, man.
It was a pleasure. I know the community got that one, and I'm glad you finally got to share this on the podcast.
Long time coming, brother. Appreciate you.
All right, thank you guys. Peace.